Hey, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I'm going to walk you through how to sketch a graph of a function given the graph of the derivative. And so in this problem it says sketch a possible graph of f given that f is continuous with domain -2 to 5 and f of -1 equals 0. One of the very first things that would be most helpful in one of these problems is to create a sign chart. Because the sign chart is a really good tool that will easily communicate when my function is increasing and decreasing. Also gives me an idea of extreme values. And so if I'm creating a sign chart for f prime, given the graph of f prime, I'm going to look at the y values on the graph. And the first thing for my sign chart I need to establish are the critical values, which are where the derivative equals 0 or is undefined. And in this particular graph, there's no undefined places. All of these have a set y value. But the derivative does equal 0 each time it touches the x-axis. So that would be at -2. I'm drawing with the mouse, so bear with me. 0 at 2, and then again at 5. So my critical values are -2, 0, 2, and 5, because those are the places where the graph of my derivative touches the x-axis. And so then to fill in the rest of my sign chart, I look at y values. So from -2 to 0, it's negative. 0 to 2, it's positive. My derivative is positive. And from 2 to 5, my derivative is positive. Also, with curve sketching, I also need to know concavity, and so I'm going to create a second sign chart for this second derivative so I have an idea of concavity on my graph of my function. And so the second derivative, when I'm looking at the graph of f prime, is the slope of f prime. So where does it change from an increase to a decrease or a decrease to an increase? And so as I follow along the curve of f prime, from -2 to approximately -1, my curve is decreasing. And then from -2 all the way to 1, it's increasing. And then decrease, increase, decrease. So I'm going to map that out on my sign chart for f double prime. So that would be my sign chart for the second derivative. And both of these charts are great tools for curve sketching. In the setup of the problem, they tell me that f of -1 is 0. So I must plot that point. That's the one point I have to have. Now it says sketch a possible graph. So the reason why that's key is because we don't know what y values the graph of f actually have. The only one we know for sure is this one point, -1, 0. And so this is just a possible graph. It doesn't mean that it is the actual graph. It's just using this information. I'm going to sketch a possible graph. And so the way I'm going to use these sign charts is I'm going to look at my concavity and my intervals of increase and decrease together. So from -2 to 0, my line has to be decreasing. But I have to change from concave down to concave up at -1, right here. So concave down looks like this, concave up looks like this, but I have to be decreasing the entire time. So what I'm looking at is concave down and then concave up, so that I'm still decreasing the entire time. So concave down, concave up. And then I have to change from decrease to increase at 0 and change from concave up to down at 1. So I'm decreasing, decreasing all the way to 0, and then I'm changing to an increase, and I'm still concave up until I get to 1, and at 1 I have to change to concave down. but I'm still increasing all the way to 2. And then at 2, it changes to concave up and increasing. So concave up and increasing would look like this. So concave up and increasing all the way to 5, but at 4 I change back to concave down. So increasing, increasing, but at 4 I've got to concave down, but still increase. So it looks like that. I went past 5, so I need to erase some of that. And so, yes, it's a very, very rough sketch. However, it is accurate according to my sine charts. So just to go back through, I have to have a decrease from -2 to 0. -2 to 0, it is decreasing. I have to have an increase 0 to 2, it's increasing. And then still increasing 2 to 5, done. And then it has to go concave down, 0 to -1, concave up from -1 to 1, concave down, 1 to 2, concave up, 2 to 4, and then concave down, 4 to 5. So now I got it right. And this one point, -1, 0, is the only definite point I have. So that is how you would sketch a curve of f given f prime.